The title of today's episode is How to Get Started Building a Stronger Value Proposition. And so my name's Scott Joseph, and today I am talking with the CEO and President of Petra Oil Company, Arnold Gacita.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Love having you here. Arnold is a very well-known expert when it comes to building value proposition, especially when it comes for the purpose of growing sales. And you've got a great background and good experience, so we really appreciate you. It's gracious of you to agree to do this interview with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
So let's jump right in. I think a lot of people, and our show is all catered towards business leaders and entrepreneurs. You know, I think the internet has done a great job of making it easier for consumers and people to research and do a lot online and all this, but it also from business owners, especially in markets that might be considered a commodity, marginalizing us at times. And so when I see businesses out there experiencing or going after, has a lot of great growth, I pay attention to it, and I want to find out what the secret is. So let's jump right in.
That gets me nervous when we're divulging the secrets.
You don't have to worry about your competition doing it, because most people hear it and then they never do anything with it.
No. I think everybody knows a little bit of what we do anyway.
So my first set of questions is really just, I want the audience to get a good understanding of your background and your experience so they can better understand who you are, where you came from, how you got this thing started. Because it's a pretty incredible story. And then I want to jump into your thoughts and ask you questions as if, what would you do today if you had to start all over with it? So we'll kind of get into that in the second half of this. But tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background, your education. Where'd you get all this experience?
Sure. I've been in this business for 28 years, and I got into it by an accident. Not accident like a car accident, but I actually was in the freight business.
Okay.
And one of our competitors, one of the biggest competitors we had, their distributor in Houston was one of my customers. And he loved the way we ran our business. He loved the way we managed our team and added value to everything we did. And just the touch that we gave selling freight to his business. So for about a year, he courted me and tried to convince me to come work for him. It was a small, mom and pop organization, family-owned business. His dad had started in 1948 after the war, and he became a distributor for our competitor. And so about a year into this, I have a little lunch meeting with him and his dad. Fell in love with his dad, him too, but his dad was just one of the, that greatest generation that just wowed you.
Do people say the same thing about you and your son?
Well, probably. If you've seen my son and me, people sometimes say, hey, you guys look alike, which I take that as a compliment. I'm not too sure how he takes that. But anyway, so I took the job, and within 7 years, we turned that distributorship into the number one distributor for that company in the world.
Oh, wow.
And so they courted me and moved me from a local distributorship to the corporate level. Okay. I became a business development manager, then became a national sales manager, and grew on through the company. My last position with them was director of sales and marketing. I ran for the Americas group. I ran Canada, U.S., and Latin America for them. And then about 9.5 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine that we both started in this business, and he says, why don't you open this up? Why don't you do this? After a lot of prayer, a lot of thoughts, meeting with some investors, we decided to do it.
Were you overnight success?
No.
It didn't just happen for you?
It didn't just happen for us by no means. And even the things you plan that you think are going to happen don't necessarily happen. But we did have an advantage, which was, in our case, we're big faith people, so we had faith that this was going to happen. And then we had the expertise. So we knew the players in the industry. We knew the distributors in the industry. We knew what was lacking in the industry.
And for those who may not know Petra Oil, can you explain that industry?
Sure. So we manufacture automotive chemicals. Anything that has to do with a vehicle, to maintain it, take care of it, make it look pretty, or shop supplies needed to repair the vehicle, we manufacture. I tell people everything you need in the shop except your bulk oil. Okay. We do a little bit of bulk oil, but that's not our forte. So if you need products to clean your injectors, if you need brake fluid or brake cleaners, if you need waxes or soap, We do everything you need to maintain your vehicle inside and out, barring a major, oil type products.
And you started this 9.5 years ago.
9.5 years ago.
What I love about this and what excites me about this interview is, 9.5 years ago, it's still probably pretty crowded in a competitive space.
Crowded, and it was the downturn of the economy.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a downturn of the economy and crowded.
Took some guts.
It took a lot of guts, a lot of prayer, and a lot of faith. I remember that I looked at my wife before I did it, before I sent my resignation letter in, and she looked at me and she says, "Let's do it." She says, "If we have to start all over again, we'll start all over again." I'm thinking, wow, that's gutsy.
That's perfect, because a lot of these questions are going to be on how to start over and how to get started. So it's going to be perfect. I didn't even, I did my research. I knew that when you started, but I didn't even think about it in terms of the recession.
I had a friend of mine who's in the banking business who, in my kitchen, says, "What are you, crazy?" He was the only one that said, "Don't do it." Yeah. A banker, which makes kind of sense.
Yes. They want to make sure they get paid.
Yeah. Everybody else was doing it.
Yeah.
And again, I only spoke to a handful of people, but everybody was very supportive. Do it. Again, the banker was I only had one person tell me no, and we took that leap of faith. It's the best thing I've ever done.
What roadblocks did you face early on, and then what did you do to overcome them?
I think one of the things that I underestimated was the company being new, right? So you're in a space where you have people that have been around for 75 years.
Yep.
And you're coming in as the baby. I tell people we're coming in as the David, facing the Goliath. But you're coming in as the baby, and I underestimated how, time is important. So people, they'll say, hey, they know me, they know Arnold, they know what I can do, they know what I've done, but Petra just started. Yeah. Do we leave a company that we've been doing business with for 20 years that has existed for 50 for a guy that's been in there for 28 years and just opened his company as a month old? I think that part I underestimated, but I got it quickly and focused more on my expertise versus the company's length.
So you're sitting there, and you've got this strong background, sales and marketing. So you probably quickly recognized, okay, this keeps coming up, or you're finding out this is what's causing or preventing me from moving forward with a few businesses, right?
Right.
So you say, all right, I'm gonna be proactive on that, and I'm gonna bring it up first and talk about me, and I'm gonna make this a benefit.
That's right.
Yeah.
And another thing was, this is a business where it's a high, we go speak to the service manager type of business, and I switched that to I'm going to go speak to the owner. The owner of dealerships typically are focused on sales. They typically come up the chain through the sales department, not the fixed op.
100% correct.
So they rely, rightfully so, on people that they hire and pay a lot of money to run that fixed op department. I changed the strategy a little bit, and I went after owners. So we built relationships with owners and taught them the fixed op to help them make the right decision. And so your 28 years of expertise, regardless of how young the company is, all of a sudden brings value to this owner. Because I'm telling him, here's what's going on with your department. I actually became a business consultant, right? I walk in and I go, here's what you're using, here's what the problem is. You're paying too much for this, you're not doing this, your penetration's too low here. And I educated the owners on the fixed operation side, where they can now go to the fixed manager and have an educated conversation about the back end.
Did you have any tools or resources that you used early on to help you develop this value proposition?
Well, just my experience, right? So there's not that I went out and grabbed something from J.D. Powers or et cetera. It's just my years of experience dealing with dealerships. I tell people, and I don't want to say this in a very arrogant way. It's just experience, right? I know the dealership back end business. I may not know the front end business, right? I don't know much about selling cars, but when it comes to service department, fixed ops, I know that business, and there isn't much that a service manager, fixed operation manager can tell me that I don't know it or know whether they're not being forthright and trying to cover something up. I know that business. So I think that's just experience to be able to sit down with somebody and go,
Any mentors or anything like that? Anybody like that early on that kind of helped you, or did you learn most of it on your own?
Well, I would say I had mentors, and mentors are different ways, right? So my grandfather and my father were mentors in work ethics. They taught me to
Nice.
work day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Pick up a broom,
So
clean.
it's not a 40-hour-a-week job.
It's not a 40-hour, no, by no means. And they taught me that. In the business side, especially this business, I have a mentor his name is Jerry Miles.
Okay.
And he taught me this side of the business. A great mentor. Also been in this business probably now for 35 years or so. So I would say I had 3 mentors. One focused on this type of business, and then 2 that really taught me work ethics.
And you probably will cringe when I say this. In a commodity business, there's only 2 ways to win. You either continue to lower price and be the lowest price, and most of the time, everyone's already kind of what I call race to the bottom, and usually that's around a tie.
Yeah,
You're
right.
all there. Or you find ways to create more value so you can either maintain or increase your margins. And so a lot of what the research I've done, and we're going to talk about it in some detail here, you've done that. You've taken plan B, which is usually the more profitable way to do it.
Yeah, it's profitable for us. It's profitable for the dealer. Because we walk in and we tell everybody we meet with, if you're looking for the cheapest guy, we're not it.
Yeah.
Okay? If you want to be successful in the fixed op department, if you want to move product, if you want to increase your CSIs, if you want customers coming back, if you want better gross in the back end, that's us. And I give this example to people all the time. You can buy something that's $1 and think you got a great deal and it's sitting on a shelf. Or you can buy it from me for $2 and I move 100 of them a month. You're making more money with me than you are with that other one.
Correct.
Okay, so if I move product for you, if I teach your people how to move it, if your customers are satisfied, you can't beat that in price.
So it sounds like one of the things that you're doing that might separate you from competitors would be support and training to your client.
Support, training, and customer retention. So we have programs that retain customers and bring them back to the dealership. We train the dealership. I mean, we have programs every 3 to 4 months. Our distributors are in there training dealerships, teaching new service advisors, technicians. It's an ongoing program, and that's just the ones that we set up. A dealership can call us up at any time and say, I got 2 new service advisors coming here and train them, and we'll train them. But even if they don't call us, we're in there just about every quarter, just putting the carrot back out there, training people, explaining how this works, keeping the focus.
You mentioned early on that you're going in, you started running into a little bit of a roadblock with underestimating how new the company was and probably underestimating the challenge that would be to overcome. So you start selling yourself. But at what point, because if we're talking about building value proposition, and we got on here with the support, and at least for my own business, none of that all happened at the same time for me, right? It evolved and you just kept getting better because you had to. What was the first major breakthrough for you where you were like, you know what, I'm going to start doing this, and then all of a sudden things got a little bit easy. It never gets easy, but easier.
I think the first major breakthrough was obtaining a national account, a group that had 22 or so dealerships nationwide.
Okay.
Again, selling them on my experience. That group today, I think, has 44, 45 dealerships nationwide. It's still part of our network. And that led to, so now you go to the next group and the next group and the next group, and you start closing those deals. So I'd say that in the dealership world in the U.S., the first hurdle that we really said, okay, we got this now, was signing our first dealer group. Not just a dealer, or a person that owns 1 or 2.
What did that do for you?
Well, and all of a sudden you got volume, right?
Besides obvious more money coming in.
Well, you got volume, you got testimonials, you got somebody that you can give as a reference. So you go speak to another dealer group and they go, who do you use? Well, we use so-and-so. They call that person tells them what we do, and then you just keep adding those pieces to it.
Was there any type of breakthrough from what you were offering or how you packaged your offer to allow that to happen?
Well, yes, and we were going to a dealership. So instead of going to the fixed op manager,
okay,
not that there's anything wrong with that. We just found that our niche was we do good at educating the owner of what he doesn't know in the back end.
At what point early on did you recognize this is something the industry lacks, and if we start doing that, it gives us a leg up?
I'm very, very quick, probably within a year.
Okay.
Within a year, we realized, okay, we need to go talk to the owner.
Okay.
Because we know we have a value-added program. We know we can do what we could do. I have the experience. And sometimes for whatever reason, the fixed op manager says, look, I've been using this guy for 30 years. And even if it means more money for the owner, they're happy and content.
Well,
so you got to bring the owner in.
And sometimes the manager, they're the ones in the weeds doing the work. So sometimes switching for some people
it's a lot of
is
work.
a lot of,
It's a lot of work.
They view that.
Yeah.
So let's go there for a second. I have 3 dealerships, all right? And you're coming to sell us. And I'm sitting here, let's pretend, so the owner, I'm in fixed ops and I'm managing that. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't want to go through this hassle. This is not what I want. What do you do to make it easy?
So part of our presentation as we do is that we talk about the implementation plan. Okay, so once we've convinced you to use us and you're in, we show you how we're going to do it all in one day. And we have an implementation plan where we take it off the hands of the manager, so that because he's busy, he's overwhelmed. More and more, these service managers have more and more things to do. The least they want to do is deal with us coming in and changing it. So we walk in and work with the parts department in the transition. Then we teach the technicians. Then at night when you close, we teach the service advisors. We set up menus and opcodes for parts and service. We really take it off the hands of parts managers as well as service managers. They just have to bless what we're doing, right? So when we develop a menu for them, they go, yeah, that's right, this is right. Change that price, add this, take that out. And that's how we win service managers over too. So when they see that we're going to, so the owner says, this financially makes sense for me. I want to do this. Then we help the fixed op manager or the service manager go with it when we show them that we're going to hold his hand and we're going to do the work for him. You keep doing what you're doing. We're going to be in your dealership. We're going to set this thing up. And they really, really enjoy that.
I love this because it does not matter what industry you're in. You've got to find ways to build more value or you're going to get stuck and or decline, right?
Absolutely.
And so you worked in this industry for how many years prior to starting this?
19 years.
All right, so 19 years. Yet when you started Petra Oil Company, you weren't providing and going to the owners right away, and you were not providing this transition. That happened about a year later when you started recognizing this is a need in the marketplace. So you weren't taught that, all right, or you would have just adopted that and took it with you. So that is what I love about this, and what I want every business leader that's listening to understand is if you had chased competitors, that would have not happened because you came from a kind of a competitor.
Right.
You would have already brought it.
Sure.
You listened to what your customer wanted. And you
That's right. Listen, and you hit on something very important because I preach this. I have people, obviously that call me from, the old era and the people that I used to work for. Hey, did you hear this? Did you hear this? The reality is I don't hear that. I don't look for it. I don't search it. I'm about making sure that my customers are happy, finding the value that they need so that I can service them right and build a relationship with them. Not that being knowledgeable of your competitors isn't important. It is.
Correct.
But I don't wake up and look at my competitor's website. No, I wake up and I look at my emails from my customers.
Yes.
What do they need? What else can I offer them? How can I tighten this relationship? How can we have a better relationship? We would not have done it if we keep looking backwards.
That's great. And so I don't want people to misunderstand because you're right. You're paying attention to your competitors. You got to know what they're doing.
Right.
But you're not obsessed with it. You're not trying to
That's
copy.
right.
You're not trying to model any of that
can't.
stuff. And so the other thing is customers aren't going to sit there and
I had not to cut you off, but I had a competitor come to me one time at a trade show and says, "How are you taking all these customers away from me?" And I said, "I wouldn't ask that question. You should ask the question, why are you losing them?"
Correct.
Right?
That's 100% correct.
You're focused on me.
Yes.
You need to look back and see what you did wrong and why you lost them.
What I'm asking about a competitor, because you never want to bash a competitor, right? If you're talking to a customer, I think an elegant way to do that is just simply ask, what are 2 or 3 things that you really like about what they're doing for you? So you find that, and why is that important to you? Now, if you're going to talk about a competitor, I might follow that question as, what are 2 or 3 things you really wish they'd improve on? So I can find my opportunity, right? But it is, you get a better sense of what they want there. And so, to me, I think it's important. The customer doesn't just come out and tell you, and so I'm saying this because I don't want the people listening to think that customers aren't out there saying, listen, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking this is going to be a big hassle and I don't want to switch. And they're not sitting there saying, I really don't know what I'm doing in fixed ops. I wish someone could walk me through and teach me and mentor me in this area. You've got to have your ears to it closely, right? And pick up on these nuances. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it's funny because as we've gotten more dealer groups, they talk to each other and they will tell each other, hey man, I don't know what's going on in my fixed op or my service. And we will have our customers say, listen, call Arnold, he'll walk you through it. And I have had calls. I've had calls from guys that own 20, 30 dealerships that we've met in the lobby of a hotel that look at me and say, tell me, how do I know what's going on? and it's not a it's not a PowerPoint, it's not a catalog, it's me and an owner talking about business.
Yeah.
And that's how we've gotten a lot of that business.
And that's the best part of our jobs. You know, the strategy talking and all. To me, that is. I love to talk about new opportunities and smarter ways to do things, and they probably really appreciate those type of combos.
And you build this. You'll say, you know, your pricing should be the here and here, and they'll say, well, my service manager says the pricing is this. And I know. I said, that's not your pricing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's not your pricing. And I'll say, pull an invoice. And they'll pull an invoice. All of a sudden, you got credibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because you told them, we know our competitors' pricing. We know where it's supposed to be at. We know if somebody's doing an incentive or not, no incentive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So when you do something like that, all of a sudden the owner is being educated, and we know how to build a relationship with owners to be honest with you, I have a better relationship with owners today than I had in my previous company. Because in that company, we focused a lot with fixed op managers and service manager and parts managers. Here, because we were new and we were young and we were the baby, our focus was more with owners, and we have an incredible relationship with owners that I didn't have before.
I think I want to keep stressing this, right? Because I kind of walk both sides of this aisle.
Right.
I'm in your shoes selling to dealers, but at the same time, I've got stores, so I'm giving people sell to me. And I've got the challenges that every dealer faces, right? And there's a lot of pressure on margins. But the space you're in, and this goes for all industries that feel that pressure of shrinking margins or the commodity stuff, it doesn't get much more competitive than what you're doing.
No, this is a very competitive world.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what? People pay if they know what they're getting.
Yeah.
And we train advisors to talk to people, to educate consumers on what they're getting. People pay as long as they know what they're getting.
Because those people that are buying from you put a higher value on that than the price.
Sure.
And I think the key is finding your niche, right? And if your niche is superior service, and you're probably competitive on price, I'm not saying that you're not, but finding that niche and then really finding going after that and making sure you're great at it. I think I listened to a presentation, Brian Benstock from Paragon Honda. Yeah. Great service. It's not an app, but a great tool that he's doing from service where literally a customer just never has to leave their home and service their cars with him. His numbers have shot through the roof, but more importantly, his gross per transaction is drastically increased. In a marketplace where everyone's saying the margins are shrinking, right? His are drastically going up.
It's added value.
Correct.
It's added value. We have another group that's following that model, actually, that we do business with here in Texas. That beginning of the year we'll have that model as well.
Yeah.
It's just people will pay for service. Yeah. People will pay if they're getting something they feel there's value to it, and you got to have the value there. It just can't be. But people pay for it.
That's correct. You know? Well, to some people, time, effort is just more important to them.
Right.
So, and if that's your niche, then that's what you do.
You know, I give people this example all the time. If you go buy a TV, do you buy the cheapest, the middle, or the most expensive? The majority of the people, 7 out of 10 will tell you they buy the middle.
Yes.
Just off the bat.
That's right.
Okay? Then you have this other 10, 15% that'll buy the most expensive because they were educated on it.
Yeah.
So really, even in the TV world, price is not a factor.
No.
And that's another commodity area.
I've never bought the lowest price television.
We just don't.
So, Unless it's for our president's office.
There you go.
That's a little dig on him. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's start talking about moving into the present, because I think there's a lot of people listening that might be like, all right, all this is great, but I want to be able to take some real world stuff and apply it to certain business applications I might have. I want to shorten that learning curve. So let's talk about, I want to ask you a series of questions that kind of go along the line of if you had to start over, So if you had to start over today, knowing everything you've known over the last 9.5 years, or that you've learned, right? What would you do differently?
Well, and let me tell you, I tell people this all the time. The previous company I was with, I learned what not to do with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I started this company, I had a little head start because my previous company, I thought there were decisions that were made there that weren't correct, weren't good.
Yeah.
So people always ask me, how did you figure this out? Why? I actually didn't figure it out. Now I figured it out when I was somebody else and realized
This kept me from selling stuff.
That's a terrible decision.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. So one advice that I give people is do whatever it is that you like to do and that you have experience in. My wife came to me one time and she goes, I want to open a boutique. And I said, you've never owned a boutique. You haven't worked for a boutique. You haven't sold in a boutique. I go, if you want to do that, go find a job at a boutique, work for them for a year or two, learn everything about it, then we'll open a boutique.
Yeah.
But, or if somebody wants to open a restaurant, they've never in their life worked in a restaurant. So my advice to people is do something that you have experience in. Most car dealers came from sales, right? Yeah. They sold cars for years. Then they became general sales manager. Then they became general managers. Then they bought a percentage of a dealership. Then they bought all the dealership. That 20, 15 years of experience teaches you what not to do and do. So my advice, first of all, is don't do something you don't know. Yep. Don't get involved in something you have no experience on. If you want to do something that you've never had experience on, go get a job with somebody else. Learn on their buck.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you've been in it for a few years, use your money to start something new.
All right. So let's go back in time. And so most of the stuff that you did differently, you learned in advance. What would you do more of?
What would I do more of now?
Yeah.
Man.
More of and then less of.
Yeah. Well, so I think I would do, if I wish I had more time. Well, one of the things that I got to learn is
everybody
delegation,
wishes that.
Right? So I got to learn to delegate more. Okay? I love this business. Again, I've been in this for 28 years. I love meeting with owners. I like working the deal. I'm leaving with 2 of my guys to Detroit tomorrow, right? Yeah. I don't have to go, but I love this.
Yeah.
So if something I would have to do more or less would be that. I need to, and it's hard sometimes as an owner, right? To let things go to the people you've hired for them to do it, and not be so involved in every decision. So I think that's probably one of the things that I would do more and less of, right? More giving up and less getting involved.
So let me ask you this question. I'll switch. I don't have this one planned, but that brings up an interesting thing. You probably have some creative. You don't get to where you're at without some pretty creative. What I mean by creative, I'm not talking about. I should say innovative. That's a better word. Innovative people here. What do you do as a business leader to help elevate that? When you have someone that you've kind of noticed, this person's a little more innovative or creative, and has great ideas here. What do you do to kind of elevate that person here? Not terms and I'm not talking about titles and stuff like that, but to kind of really grow all that and
this is going to sound crazy, but I let them do ideas that even if I know sometimes those ideas are going to fail. I want them to feel empowered.
Yeah.
So to me it's important, especially somebody that you see has potential.
Yeah.
I want them to have the liberty to make decisions so that they don't feel they're going to get fired if they make the wrong decision or make a bad decision or things. Also, we all know we're going to make some decisions are going to work, some aren't. Mm. So I want them. My biggest thing is to get them through that hump of, okay, I can breathe easy. I can make a decision. I'm not going to get fired for making a bad decision. Yeah. So that gives them more liberty to do things, and that's whether it's in marketing or salespeople. I tell people all the time, make a decision. Make a decision, and if it's a good one, we're going to go great. If it's a bad one, we're going to learn from it. Now you can't consistently make bad ones.
No.
But make one.
Where do you think business leaders today should spend more of their time and effort if they want to succeed, or grow at a faster pace, short term and long?
Mentoring. I
How,
think
how do you mean?
so. You need to have people follow you. One of the things that I started doing is
You're saying you should mentor more people.
I should, and no, in general, and everybody.
Yeah.
You should mentor more people, and everybody that owns a business should mentor more people. I was at a lunch today with somebody that I talked to them about succession planning, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a succession plan,
Yeah.
and you have to mentor people. There's a whole new generation coming up. And how you mentor people, the old way of mentoring people was you invite them to a couple of meetings, you told them that, you're looking out for them and, they're part of that succession list. And that's not really mentoring. That's
No.
telling somebody, hey, one day you may have this job.
Yeah.
Mentoring, in my cases, I'm copying certain people that I'm mentoring on, like as an example, all my emails. I want them to see how I respond to an email, how I respond to a crisis. When somebody is contacting me for something, how my attitude is. I invite them to go to meetings with them. I invite them to go into calls with me. I want them to shadow me.
When we have big meetings with, whatever manufacturer, I love when some of our newer reps join us for those meetings. Sometimes they never say anything, but it's a different perspective when you hear that level or that type of meeting, right, versus the ones they're probably used to. Because most of the time, if someone is starting out with this, they're calling on the independent or the individual dealership, right? But when you sit in some of those high-level meetings, your perspective and understanding, I think it's a great learning experience.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm glad you said that.
Absolutely. You can know finances, but not know the finances of that company. So these people that I'm mentoring, as an example, we go through our P&L, we go through our balance sheet, because it's slightly different.
Yeah.
I want them to get it. I want them to understand it. I want them to live it and breathe it. And you can't just do that by saying, "Hey, one day you're going to do it."
Yeah.
No, it takes years.
That's right.
If somebody following you, shadowing you, seeing how you think, how you act, how you react to problems, how you react to success.
So it's clear to see in talking to you, you've done a good job differentiating yourself. And I don't even think, the more I don't even know, I know your background. It's sales and marketing. So I'm sure a lot of that was planned. However, I also get the sense that a lot of it came pretty naturally to you in terms of differentiating, how you ended up differentiating yourself or your business.
Well, look, I started selling when I was 15.
Yeah.
And my uncle was making furniture in a garage, and I took the pictures without telling him and went to furniture stores and sold it. I like selling. Again, that's my problem, right? I like being in it.
Yeah.
So
you're present.
So I love selling. I love finding solutions for people. I love building relationships. We're big on relationship building, and we don't just want to sell you. We want to be your friend.
Yeah.
And so that's the way we are. We had a customer today that his father died. And we immediately got a hold of him. I mean, it has nothing to do with business. It has to do with humanity. He's a friend.
Yeah.
He lost his father, and so you do what friends do.
Yeah, that's great. The first thing I get, and I've talked to your son before this interview as well. Apple doesn't fall far, but I will say this, that
He looks like me, right?
dead on you. Dead on you. I thought you were brothers. When I interview people, because I'm really trying to find people in a commodity type business, and I told him, I said, your dad's not going to like me calling it a commodity, because what I've noticed is people that succeed at high levels in those type of industries, they don't view the product that way.
I'm going to tell you. I don't know.
You don't think you're selling. You're not selling a commodity,
right? Because I don't sell product.
Correct.
Okay, and so we had a training here last week. We had our Mexican distributor and our Chilean distributor here. It's kind of like one of the Latin America guys put together, and I can't tell you how many times we told these guys we don't sell bottles. It's not what we do. I never go in to talk to an owner about a bottle or a specific product.
Yeah.
I talk to the owner about making him money.
Yeah. Because that's the only reason they're buying from
That's
you.
right. That's the only reason.
That's right.
And I tell everybody, once you get the business, then it's still not about the bottle, because when the guys see Petra on the shelf, I don't necessarily want them to think about Petra, and don't get me wrong, I want our branding, and we're big on branding, but I want them to go, man, that's Mike's company.
Yeah.
That's Arnold's company.
Yeah.
That's Elio's company. That's Megan's company. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want them to see a person on that product because we've built a relationship and we're giving you all this added value that's making you the profit that nobody looks at as a bottle.
That's right.
You know, we just don't sell bottles.
I think there's a lot of people that struggle trying to build more value with if it was easy, everybody'd do it. And right. And how do I differentiate myself? I know dealers struggle with that. So, you know, I get so tired of hearing commercials about customer experience, but as if the customer knows what that is. And so, you know, I'm always like, tell them why it's better, you know, but at the same time, where do you think business leaders, regardless of industry, where do you think they waste in their efforts of trying to differentiate themselves, make themselves unique? Where do you think they waste most of their time and effort?
You know, I think they waste time talking too much about themselves. So although we have this experience and we know what we're doing, I can tell you that our talk with an owner about Arnold or our experience is, if it was a presentation, it'd be one slide. The rest is about your business.
Yes.
So we waste a lot of time on things that don't matter to the owner. We're not respecting his time. He's got a limited amount of time, and we got to get to the point. We're there to make him money. So yeah, I'm Arnold. I've been in this for 28 years. That's great. Rah, rah, rah. Let me tell you about your business.
Yeah.
Okay? You're buying from this company. Here's what I can save you. Here's what I can do. You haven't had training for this long. You have menus that are black and white, outdated. I mean, I just go through the list, right? So we need to talk more about their needs than you.
Correct.
You know, and, you know, a lot of salespeople, obviously, we're all type A's. You know, we all like to talk about us, you know, but you can't.
Yeah.
It can't be all about you. In fact, it has to be very little about you and more about that customer.
I like to say a lot, the customer doesn't care about you.
Right.
All they care about is how you're going to save them, usually one of three things. How you're going to save them time, effort, or money.
That's it.
So
and fast and quick, to
correct.
the point.
So
know?
you got to get there.
Yeah. I remember worked a deal one time with a guy that owns about 27 dealerships nationwide. And he was buying from another competitor of ours. And he goes, well, that competitor sells me, you know, again, we're in the chemical business. I'm also very focused, right? I know the chemical business. If you want a chemical company, we're the best.
Yeah.
Hands down.
That's your niche.
I can show it. I can prove it. That's what we know. So this guy comes up and says, well, my chemical company today, they sell me paper towels and you know, the toiletries that go in the restrooms, etc. And I'm like, I'm not that guy. I said, I'll give you a Sam's card. But I can tell you right now, you're paying a lot of money if you're buying it from the chemical guy.
Yeah.
Because we don't make toilet papers. You know,
Yeah.
It's probably cheaper if you send your receptionist to Sam's and buy it and have that guy sell it to you. So, and I told him, I said, if you want a chemical guy that's going to come in here and make you more gross, I'm your guy. If you want a guy that's going to come in here and sell you toilet papers, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
And I got that deal.
That's a
and
great.
still have that deal.
Well, that makes so much sense.
Right. You know, but again, so you get stuck in that. People have a lot to do, and so somebody thought, wow, that's great. I can buy everything from this guy. Yeah, you're also spending twice as much on your expenses than you should.
Yeah. Where do you get your ideas?
We have a thing called, I get the ideas from our team, you know, and from customers. I mean, I'd say 50-50 from our team, 50-50 from our customer. Customers call us up and say, hey, why don't you do this for me? Why don't you, you know, package things this way, and then we'll spread it out, and people like it, and we do it. But we have a thing called the whole meeting.
The whole.
The whole, H-O-L-E.
Okay.
And it's based on.
So not whole like a whole piece of pie.
No, not W-H-O-L. It's H-O-L-E.
All right.
And it's based on a drill bit company that got a new CEO, and I forgot the name of the company, but it's in a book. And this new CEO walks around his new company, and he asks people, what are we in the business? You know, what do we do? And the engineers are like, oh, we make drill bits, you know. And the salespeople, we got diamond cut, platinum, we make all these drill bits. And receptions, we sell drill bits, you know. So he calls a company meeting, and he says, look, I just got in here, but I want to tell you that, you know, we're probably going to be out of business soon. And everybody's shocked, you know. There's a new president telling everybody they're going to be out of business. And he goes, because none of you guys know what we're in the business of doing. He says, everyone around, all of you guys talked about drill bits. We're not in the business of drill bits. We're in the business of making a hole. And the day somebody figures out how to make a hole better than us, we're out of business.
Yeah.
So we don't make drill bits, we make holes. Don't get stuck on the drill bit. Figure out another way to make a hole.
Yeah.
And so I took that and I have what's called hole meetings. And so we come in and we just throw the craziest things on the wall. Okay, well, we do a transmission service this way. What's another way to do it? What's a crazy way to do it that, people may laugh at? And we just throw different ideas, 98% of the stuff we never do. But 2% of it hits a home run.
I got a funny story. So, as a business owner, sometimes you can overanalyze what you do, right? And you get stuck in trying to say something so perfectly. And then you go back a year later and say, this doesn't even make sense, or even, this does no message to our customer at all, right? So I'm sitting here with J&L and I'm sitting here thinking, how do I describe in a tagline or some type of message as to what we do? And you start coming up with all kinds of stuff. And one day I got my 9-year-old daughter. All right, she's 9 years old. And just a little shout out to Sophia. She's up in our marketing team, and we've got the big board where we put ideas, and she's just drawing. So she's drawing J&L, the building and stuff like that. And then I see in a bubble, I kid you not, coming from the building, we help people sell cars. And I'm like,
yeah, and that's so true.
That's simple as that. That's what we do.
We overthink all the time. We try to make things fancier than what they are.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yes.
Just be simple.
So sometimes maybe we need to bring in our little ones and do that. Who are the big players that you've learned from? And maybe you've seen, it doesn't have to be even in your industry, right? I think sometimes the best ideas come outside of the industry we're in. So who are the big players you've taken an idea from, or maybe saw a marketing or a sales approach and you said, you know what, I'm going to take a version of that. The whole meeting, I think, is a perfect example, and I'm going to apply it to our own business applications.
I mean, it's hard because there's so many people that have played in companies that I've looked at. I'll give you one example that I think as I was growing in this business that I thought was great, and that was before Shell owned them. But Pennzoil I thought was great.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from Pennzoil. I used to do a lot with them. They used to do the oil.
They're a client of ours.
We used to do the chemicals, and they would evolve quickly as times change from mineral oil to semi-synthetic to synthetic. They were just, always evolving quickly. Made a great brand for themselves. Didn't sell at low cost.
Yeah.
It was a premium for Pennzoil. I really enjoyed and learned a lot from seeing them grow and then obviously eventually sell off to Shell.
Well, and they do an outstanding job of building a value proposition as well.
Must be because they use you, right?
Well, we're part of it. But I mean, it was impressive because, why do you do that, right? You're trying to overcome certain objections or potential problems that you might have. So, Leah, do you think it's easier or harder today for a new business leader to start out compared to when, say, 9.5, 10 years ago?
I don't
and
think
why
so.
or why not?
I think it's just as hard.
Okay.
Right? I don't think it's easy.
Yeah. It's never going to be.
It's never going to be easy. So you got to have, again, I believe you got to have faith. You got to pray about it. Make sure you do. This is what you need. This is what you should do, and then you got to stick it out. I mean, you're jumping in the deep side of the pool, and you're going to have to swim, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to get fatigued, and you got to keep swimming, or you're going to drown. And I think persistence is important. I think it was important 9 years ago, and it's going to be important today. I think you're going to have blows, and you're going to have to be one of those people that can stand up and say, okay, well, I took the blow, I learned my lesson, I got a couple of cuts and bruises, but I'm going to go on.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Yes.
Right? You hear that cliche all the time, but I have a group of maybe 5 people that I bounce ideas off of.
Yep.
That's not my team. That's not part of our board. Just 5 people that I call up and I go, what do you think about this? And sometimes they poke more holes in it than I'm like, okay, well, that was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go, well, there's a possibility if you do this. They have no stake in the game. They're not going to get anything whether they give me whatever advice. They're just there to mentor and help you. I'm big on asking people for advice.
Yeah.
I'm big on asking people, hey, what do you think about this? I don't think I know all the answers. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the room. I just know how to ask people things. I know how to build relationships. I listen to what customers want. So I surround myself by guys that are really, really smart, and I bounce ideas off of them.
So we've got business leaders out there listening to us. Some are just getting started. Some might be feeling stuck. What would you say as we close this out to kind of help motivate them so they do keep pushing forward?
So look, if they're stuck, they got to reinvent what's going on, right? If you're stuck, that means that whatever it is you're doing or offering isn't moving, isn't progressing. So you have to reinvent it. You can't keep going that route. So find out what's causing it, why you're stuck, change it so that you can get unstuck. That's if you're stuck, that's a sign that you got to change something. And I think there are people out there that could also be successful. I think, and not necessarily be stuck, but kind of have they're getting tired. I would find 2 or 3 people that can speak to your life, that you can be honest with, and that they will encourage you to keep going, because you do need people in your life that speak encouragement.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's not. I tell people all the time to do this. Don't think it's easy. You can succeed in it, and it's great when you succeed in it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do, regardless of what you're in. Whether it's a restaurant or chemicals or owning a dealership, whatever it is. Every day brings a new challenge.
A lot of people think it's easy, except for the people doing it.
Except for the people doing it. You got political influence, you got competitive influence, you've got, commercially. So many things that impact your business every day that's almost out of your control, and you got to react to all of those things.
Yeah.
To keep it going. So as you react to those things, you could get discouraged, or you need somebody to.
I had another interview, and we described that as kind of like gravity. You've got to be able to you've got to build things and aim for things much higher than you probably think, because there are real world scenarios that you're not going to plan for that inevitably will happen, right? And I think if you're not aiming at that higher number and constantly trying to push forward, you get sucked down by some of that.
Yeah, and have big dreams. I would add to that too. Sometimes people, settle on, okay, well, if I just make it here. No, have big dreams. Have big dreams.
Yeah.
Don't settle.
You strike me as someone that aims a lot higher than, if you want to hit here, you can't aim here.
Right.
If you're a mile away, the sniper, they're not aiming right at the target. Right. They're adjusting for wind and the length of the shot. So you got to do the same in business. So, all right. Great interview, Arnold. Thank you very much.